Good morning, Year 8. Thank you again for engaging with our online lessons. Please send me that message on Show My Homework so they can see that you've accessed the lesson and I can mark you down the register and give some reward points out for that. Today's lesson is going to be assessed via self-marking. There's going to be two activities aside from the starter today. Please make sure that you are self-assessing your work. I'm still getting quite a few pieces of work in that haven't been ticked or crossed, and it does mean it's very difficult for me to give some directed feedback to you. I am in school today as well with the key workers, so if you are sending us a help email to red@theroyal.school, then please be patient with the reply and then save submission of homework to Show My Homework only. So today we're looking at percentage change. There's a last lesson that we're looking at on our percentage work. Developing students are going to be able to identify whether an amount has increased or decreased. Secure students will be able to express one amount as a percentage of another. And then excelling students are going to be able to calculate a percentage change in amounts. Starter activity for today then, I've got 5 questions based on last lesson's work with increasing or decreasing by certain amounts. And I'm going to run through that quick multiplier method for it, but if you do take the long-winded way of calculating those percentages and adding or taking them away, that's absolutely fine as well. So if you'd like to pause the video until you've got the answers to these, and I will run through what we should be doing to get those answers in a quicker way on a calculator. So answers then. So number 1, to increase an amount by 12%, you'd end up with 112% of it. So we could do 75 times by 112 over 100, or 75 times by 1.12. And that'll get us the answers as follows. For number 2, that decrease by 16%, well, if you take 16% off something, you'll be left with 84%. So we could do 64 times by 0.84, we'll get straight to our answer. Number 3, increasing this amount by 4%, that'd leave you with 104% of it. So we could do 549 times by 104 over 100, or 549 times by 1.04. That gets us straight to our answer. For number 4, we want a 5% increase and then a 6% increase on that. So if you're doing that on a calculator, we could times 400 by 1.05 and then 1.06. It'd get us straight to our answer. Number 5, decreasing 80 by 10% and then decrease that by 25%. Well, we'd be doing 80 times by 0.9 because we'd be left with 90%, and then times that answer by 0.75 and get us to those answers. And if you're unsure about that multiplier method then for it, you can send me an email and I'll give you a few more hints and tips on that process. So today we're looking at percentage changes and writing one number as a percentage of another. This is really useful in comparisons that people might be making in business or in school tests, for example, where perhaps not every test's out of the same amount. So here there are 35 sweets in a bag. 4 of the sweets are orange flavour. So what percentage of those sweets are orange flavour? It's really useful in this circumstance to start to have a look at this in a fraction way first, which might seem counterintuitive when we're looking at percentages, but fractions can be really helpful in this. And we've seen in previous lessons that fractions can easily be turned into percentages. So what fraction of those sweets are orange flavour? Well, we can see here that we've got 4 of the sweets are orange flavour. So that's going to be our numerator for our fraction. And then how many sweets were there in total? Well, there's 35, so that's going to be the denominator of our fraction. So 4 out of 35, written as a fraction. And then again, convert that to a percentage. So remember, to convert a fraction into a percentage, we've looked at it a few lessons ago, but we actually do that division. Now, 4 divided by 35, I wouldn't expect people to be doing mentally, so we can pop that in on a calculator. And 4 divided by 35 will give us a decimal, so we then need to times that by 100 to turn it back into a percentage. So 4 divided by 35, then times by 100, gives us 11.4. Now in these cases you might find that some of your decimal numbers get quite long in their decimal places. So 1 or 2 decimal places is going to be more than sufficient usually, but do have a look in the question and see what rounding is needed. Again, if you need help with rounding, you can go back to one of our first lessons that we had during the lockdown period, and you've got a lesson on rounding there. So another one with money then. Petra put £32 into a bank account, and after 1 year she received 80p interest, which doesn't sound like a lot, but if you imagine some people have hundreds or thousands or even millions of pounds in a bank account, then this would soon add up. So what percentage interest rate did she receive? first thing to consider is that we've got mixed units. We've got one in pence and we've got one in pounds. So we need them in the same units. Now it doesn't particularly matter whether you went all in pounds or all in pence, but for this example here, I'm going to go all into pence. So Petra had 80p in her interest, and then the amount that she had in the bank account to start off was £32. That's at 3,200 pence. Remember, 100 pence in a pound, so times that pound amount by 100. And we can then turn this fraction into a percentage. So Petra earned 80 pence interest out of 3,200. Remember that out of part denotes that we've got this fraction. So 80p out of 3,200. Well, that would be our fraction, 80 over 3,200. Times by 100, and then we get our answer. So do the division on a calculator. 80 divided by 3,200. That gets a decimal. Times by 100, and we get our percentage answer at 2.5% here. So that was writing one number as a percentage of another. So that's our secure learning objective. So this is our first activity that we've got for you to complete. So as usual, if you can decide whether you want to be having a go at the red, amber or green activity, as always, there's no need to do all three. They're all the same questions. It's just varying levels of support. So red, if you're not feeling very confident, has some frameworking for you. Amber, if you're feeling fairly confident, has some hints. And green, if you're feeling very, very confident, it leaves you to your own devices with that. So if you could have a go at the corresponding activity 1 there, please, on percentages of amounts, and then pause the video until you're ready for some answers on that. So answers as follows to those questions, and if you could please make sure that you have ticked or crossed your work, and then I can give you some more directed feedback, and that would be fantastic. So moving on, we're going to have a look at calculating percentage change in amount. So percentage change is where we discover what percentage an amount has increased or decreased by. And it'd be well worth writing down the key note that's in the box here in your notebooks, so we can see this and use this in upcoming questions. So percentage change is the change divided by the original amount times by 100. So there's a few things we're going to need to work out in these questions, and really watch for the literacy on them. The change is going to be the difference in the amounts that we're given. We're then going to need to identify what was the original amount. So that can be quite odd depending on what the wording of the question is. Of course, that's a fraction that we've got here, so we need to times it by 100 then to get back to our percentages. So once you've copied that, unpause the video and we can see actually what that looks like in some practical examples. A computer accessories shop increased the price of one of its printers from £80 to £100. Find the percentage increase in price. So we can see here that the printer started off at £80, and that's our original price. Remember, that's one of the key things we need to know in these questions. We've then got that the printer ended up at £100, and then that's obviously the new price of the printer. So have a look at our formula. Percentage change equals the change divided by the original amount times by 100. So we need to work out, well, what is the change in the price? Well, it's gone from £80 up to £100. So the change in the price there is 20. And we also might need to know, has it increased or decreased? But it tells us in this question here that we've got an increase, so we can run with that. But we should also be able to spot that because the original price is lower than the new price, there's been an increase that's occurred there. So the change here is going to be our increase divided by the original amount times by 100. So it said that that increase was £20. Our original amount is £80, and then we can put that in the fraction and times by 100. So we now need 20 divided by 80 and times by 100, which gives us an increase then of 25%. Now watch out in the questions. Here we were definitely told already, as we said, that it was an increase. In certain questions it might say what is the percentage change, in which case, as well as our 25% here as our answer, you would need to say that it was an increase as well. Or obviously in later questions you might have decreases in that. Next example then. Find the percentage decrease in the cost of the car in the sale. So again, we don't need to say in this case whether it's an increase or decrease because that's given in the question, but you may well in later ones yourself. So we've got our original price here is £35,500 for this car, and we've got the sale price then is £34,000. So let's have a look. We've got our percentage change formula then. It's the change divided by the original amount times by 100. So what is the change in the price? Well, it's gone from £35,500 to £34,000. So we've got a difference of £1,500. So that's going to be our change, 1,500. What was the original amount? Well, we've got original price here, the starting price for the car, the 35,500. So let's pop those in a fraction and times by 100. So 1,500 divided by 35,500 and times by 100, and we get 4.2% as our answer. Again here, this is to watch out for earlier. We've got a rounding point here of 1 decimal place, so you might end up with a longer decimal in your answer. Just make sure you round it appropriately, and we'll leave that as our 4.2% here. And this is our percentage change. So there's 3 of these then for you to try to determine how confident we are ready for the second activity. So if you'd like to have a go at these first, and pause the video until you've done so, then we can run through some answers. So on to answers. So first question, the change that we've got in these amounts is £10 and the original was 100. So we want 10 divided by 100 and then times by 100 to get back to a percentage. We have a 10% increase here. In question 2, we've got a change of £50 and an original amount of 250. So 50 divided by 250 then times by 100 gets us that 20% increase. And the last one then, we've got a £12.50 increase in this amount. So 12.5 divided by 75, making sure we're all in pounds there. 12.5 divided by 75 and then times by 100 gives us this 16.7%. I think you'll get 16.6 recurring. Remember, we're going to just round that to 1 decimal place. So from those questions, decide how confident you felt with this topic so we can move on to the activity 2. So again, if you can write red, amber or green in your book, then remember red has lots of frameworking, amber has some hints and green has no help at all. And then you can have a go at the corresponding activity 2 then. And again, pause the video until you're ready for the answers on these. And answers as follows. So if you can please self-mark your work with those, please make sure you've ticked, make sure you've put a cross on. If you're leaving answers with a cross next to them, then I'm going to assume that you want some help from me. If you leave an answer that's incorrect and put the correction next to it, then I'll assume that you sort of understood where you went wrong, so I won't give feedback on those. So thank you very much for engaging with our online lesson. If you could please send me that message on Show My Homework if you haven't already, then I can give you some reward points for accessing our lessons. We've hopefully just done the self-marking, and then if you did need help, again, I am in school today, so just be a bit patient on me replying. Well, I'll reply as soon as possible. Thank you very much. I'll speak to you next week.